Hello and welcome, everybody. Can I get an audio check that you can all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Welcome to Pi Day and welcome to our session, Become an AI Wizard with no ML magic required. So this sounds like a really great session. Hopefully you've been enjoying the other topics if you joined from the beginning of the day, and I trust you're all having a good time. If this is your first session, we've got some really exciting stuff in store for you today. So let's have a look at what the goals are for this hands-on lab that we're running through. First, we're going to get some hands-on experience using an Oracle AI service. We're going to learn what capabilities Oracle AI has to offer you. And finally, we're going to leave you with some experience of how you can apply what you're going to learn here today to your own work, whether it's development projects you're working on, whether it's an upcoming hackathon you might be participating in, or whether you're just building some AI projects for your own learning and understanding. We're going to have a great time today. So first, I'm going to introduce the team, then follow that with an overview of the Oracle AI services, and then we're going to have a look at the OCI Vision service in particular. We'll do a bit of a deep dive into that, and then I'll give you an overview of the labs, and we'll spend the bulk of this session hands-on tools, coding, and using the Oracle AI service. Okay, so the team that are here to support you today. We have myself, Aaron Hoile, based in Sydney, Australia. I have my colleague, Marek, also based in Sydney. Aaron Zong's joining us from China. Wes is joining us from the US. And we also have Mark and Prasanna in the background to support as well if we have any particular Q&A topics that come up. So please post all your questions into the Zoom Q&A provided. Okay, so let me give you a brief overview of what's really driving Oracle and our thought leadership behind our approach to AI and machine learning. So for many years, data has been available to organizations across the enterprise, and this data has primarily been structured relational data stuck in databases. So while this is really important data for the business, and there's a lot of value in this data, businesses and organizations are facing a new challenge with the rise of data coming from many more sources, such as sensors, mobile applications, social media, customer interactions, and of course, we have data in the form of voice calls, where we need to treat this with voice to text processes. We have images and video that we want to analyze, and also text documents as well. We need to be able to harvest data from all of these sources and apply it to add value to the organization. So what we want to do is allow you and your organizations to produce new insights based on all of these new semi-structured and totally unstructured data types. So we want to allow you to improve business operations by creating better customer experience and anticipating service demand, preventing avoidable equipment outages, etc. So this new next generation of use cases that's really being driven by the availability of this new type of data, working together with AI, which is the tools that we need to actually be able to extract value and apply business insight to this new data. We're going to show you how that can be done using Oracle AI and machine learning services. Okay, so let's look at what we have in our box of in our toolbox to allow you to solve these problems. So the Oracle AI portfolio is a collection of cloud services that's been designed for organizations to take advantage of all this data and generate and develop your next generation of AI applications for these various business scenarios. You'll notice that the foundation of all of this is data. Now, obviously, AI and ML work on data, and you need data to actually be able to develop and build these applications. The top layer are the applications that produce this data. So this is like a broad topic we have. So obviously it could be core business applications, whether they're on-premise or cloud, but it's also a lot of new applications that could be storing and collecting data. So maybe this is data created by smart digital assistants, and we get customer interaction records generated from chat interactions a customer may be having on our customer support side. So we're adding many different AI features into our Oracle applications. And we're also allowing you, through this collection of tools, to develop and build your own smart AI applications using this particular tool set. So between the application layer and the data layer, you see two groups here. We have the Oracle AI services, and we also have the Oracle machine learning services underneath. So the difference between these two groups is that the machine learning services are used primarily by data scientists to build, train, deploy, and manage machine learning models. So this is really for the expert machine learning developer or data science persona. The AI services, which are a new addition to our cloud portfolio, have been designed specifically with the developer in mind. They're going to allow you to develop and embed AI and smart insights into your applications without the need for machine learning expertise or data science expertise. So some of these AI services are pre-trained, and they're all able to be called by using a simple API. So you simply invoke the service, and it's going to pass it your data that you want it to work on, and it's going to give you the results back via an API service call. So there's no infrastructure to manage with these services, and that's one of the great things about this particular product. We're only billing it based on the number of API calls you make per month. So it's cheap and easy to get started experimenting with these services. So what I'm going to do is just give you a brief explanation of the various services we have in our portfolio. And just for your information, you'll see the term OCI come up a lot during this presentation. OCI stands for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So the Oracle Digital Assistant's been around for a number of years. You may be familiar with this already. It allows you to create conversational experiences for your business applications through text, chat, and voice interfaces. The language service allows you to understand unstructured text. It does language detection, key phrase and entity analysis, topic classification, and aspect-based sentiment analysis. The speech service converts digital speech to text data, so it's your typical speech to text use case. The Vision service, which we're going to be studying today, has two main capabilities. The first is object detection and images, and this applies to pulling out objects in an image, so decomposing what appears in a particular image. And the second is document detection. So what it does is it provides analytics over the top of documents, including optical character recognition or OCR, intelligent data extraction, and document classification. Now, you might notice that those services are focused on capabilities that historically have required humans to perform. The next group of services I want to talk about are there to help you make better decisions. So the first is anomaly detection. It analyzes time series signals, data sensor inputs, production data, operational data, and it looks across the multiple related signals. So it performs a multivariant time series analysis to help you detect anomalies in these signals. So it's fantastic for predictive maintenance use cases. We can monitor complex machines over a range of sensors to predict in the future when a piece of equipment may fail or break down. The second service is the OCI forecasting service. It's been designed to predict the future state of time-based business metrics. So this could help you predict future sales and operation metrics into the future. So now we're going to move down and have a look at the machine learning services. The first I want to look at is the OCI Data Science Service. It's a service designed for the professional data scientist that wants to work with an open source Python environment. It provides a collaborative environment for teams of data scientists, and it provides built-in accelerated workflows to help data scientists become more productive and more efficient with their time. The other thing is it's also sitting on a fully managed infrastructure. So this means that there's no infrastructure that needs to be managed, patched or upgraded. It's simply a serverless Jupyter Lab style notebook environment. We also provide a shared model catalog so the data science teams can check their models into a central repository and manage those. And we make it easy to deploy models directly from this model catalog to REST endpoints, so we can focus on the MLOps process. So again, we're trying to make that very easy with the rapid development of machine learning models. The central box is our in-database machine learning. So this provides various capabilities for machine learning models and algorithms to be built directly within the various Oracle database platforms, whether they're our cloud-based, our autonomous database service, or whether it's a database instance sitting on premise. So perhaps you already have an Oracle database within your organization. It's easy to add and build machine learning models directly within this existing database. And finally, we have the OCI labeling service. This is our service for labeling data for the purpose of training machine learning models. So you notice a few of our services above. We have vision service and language service. Now, often we'll have a particular requirement where I need to work with data specific to my business. So this allows me to prepare and generate labeled data sets. So you can bring your own data set and label it and do For document use cases, we can put in our own labels for document classification. Whether it's text, we can highlight and scan words and strings of words and annotate those. And also for image use cases, we're able to draw bounding boxes around various objects within an image and then label those. And we can use all of this information to then train our own specific language and vision models based on our labeled data sets. So if we have a look where this fits into the broader environment, it's great having these AI services and machine learning services, but it's good to notice that these are all surrounded by our broader Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Service Platform. So we have services that capture the entire end-to-end information management and analytics requirements that often go hand in hand with AI development. So we have a full range of services from business analytics and graph analytics to many forms of data integration service, whether it's batch and streaming, and also data management services. So I can manage data, whether it's structured, unstructured, in a database, or in a data lake sitting in object storage buckets. So all of these can come together to build powerful AI solutions. Let's have a look at some of the key features of the OCI Vision service. So as I discussed before, with the rise of digital media and with sensors, cameras becoming ubiquitous, analysis of images and video is becoming a key priority for many organizations. So often you need a way to be able to manage this growing volume of images and video data, but also beyond managing it, we need the tools to be able to analyze this information and make use of it, and then grab this information and actually put it to work, build smart, intelligent applications that sit on top of these insights. So some use cases could be, we could be working in a utilities organization and we need to be able to identify issues with pipes. So you could have a whole set of data based on images of cracked pipes. And we want to be able to build and train a machine learning model to be able to identify cracked pipes. Then we can build an application around this to automate the detection of these defects within our piping infrastructure. Another use case could be document management. So I could have a series of documents and I want to pull information out of them. Now these documents could be things like business receipts, invoices, and tax forms. So understanding all of these various use cases, whether it's extracting defects based on images or pulling useful business information out of business documents like those receipts, invoices, etc., require relevant expertise in computer vision. So the challenge has typically been that either I need deep expertise in computer vision and vision analytics from a machine learning and data science side, or I could go and grab a generic pre-built model. Now, the challenge with these generic models, I could get a model that's great for analyzing an image and then telling me whether it's a dog or a cat, or it's a chihuahua or a blueberry muffin. And I'm sure I've all seen the examples of those, but this doesn't necessarily help solve my specific business need. Where we're different is the OCI Vision service provides a couple of capabilities, and it provides the ability for me to tailor the models from the Vision service to make them specific to my business context. So if we have a look at what the two general functions that the OCI Vision service performs, first of all, it's able to provide image analysis. So it's going to capture an image and it's going to detect objects within the image. So it's going to classify the image on the left and say, hey, it's a car. And then it's also going to provide me with additional information about that. So we can see it's decomposed that image and it's found that it's a car. We've identified the bumper and we've also identified a wheel. So it's going to provide me with useful information about the objects that actually exist within that image. The second side is the document AI. So here we can see we've got a range of examples where we're pulling information out of a photograph, an image. We're able to pass a PDF document, and we're also able to pull out information from this pharmaceutical label here. And we can detect useful information and do information and processing such as key value extraction. We're able to pull tables out of documents. And we're also able to do document classification too, to understand what type of business document this is. Now, based on the actual text that it's pulling out of the document AI, it's also producing some natural language processing as well. So it's able to detect the language that's being used. So again, we can detect over a whole range of various languages. And as far as the being able to pull out useful business information, it uses capabilities from our natural language processing service to pass out useful information like key fields, etc. And we can do this in English language at the moment, but we'll be adding support for more languages in the future. So as I said, in addition to these pre-trained models, you can also use the AI Vision service and train additional models in conjunction with the Oracle labeling service to make it specific for your business use case. I'll actually show you how that can all be done in a later lab further on today. So let's have a look at the structure for today's labs. Okay, so I've covered off the overview. First, we're going to make sure you've all got access to your Oracle trial accounts. So please put your hands up or put a message in the chat or the Q&A if you haven't got your Oracle Cloud Infrastructure environment yet, your trial environment, and we can help you get set up with that. So otherwise, if you can all let me know somehow in the chat that you're all set up and you have your particular environments, that'd be really helpful. Hey, thank you. Okay, that's great. So then we're going to move through the particular labs themselves. So the first lab, we're actually going to configure and set up our Vision service. So within the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure environment, we have a range of services. We're going to show you how to set up and configure the AI Vision service and get that ready for use. We're going to have a look at the built-in demonstrations that we have within the Vision service. Then we're going to move on to two hands-on labs. We're going to have a look at how we can invoke the Vision service using a REST API. So we're going to call the API and we're going to do this with Postman. So we can see how we can invoke that from an application. Then we're going to actually run and build an application that we've created using Python. So again, we'll walk through the code, see what it does, see how that's used to batch classify a whole range of business images. And we're going to see how we can use that to actually build up an application based on the AI Vision service. And then we're going to look finally at how we can take your own set of data, annotate and label that, and use that to prepare and train a custom vision classifier. So you can use this and have something that's going to work within the context of your specific business context. So that all sounds pretty good, right? Let's actually step in and make sure you've got everything set up with your OCI trial account. Okay, so there's a few important links for today. So the links that we've got links of how to register for your trial account if you haven't already done so. We've got links to the lab resources we're going to be walking through today. Importantly, we've got a link to the Pi Day hands-on lab channel. So that's a great place to get support as you might need this as you work through and progress through the labs. I've got a link in case you don't already have Postman installed. It's important to get that, download it and install it. And also, if you don't have Python, we'll need a Python environment to actually progress through the labs. So thank you, Wes. If you can just drop some of those links into the chat, that'd be really useful. And let's also publish those to the Slack channel in our DevRel Pi Day channel as well. Okay, and another little incentive. So everybody can go and sign up for their Oracle Cloud trial account. We've got a great range of swag that's available as well. So if you haven't already registered, please make sure you register for a trial account and get your bonus swag on top of the Pi Day swag kit. Okay, so we were whitelisting accounts. So when you signed up for that trial account, we're whitelisting, so you can take advantage of the promotional offer we have within our OCI trial environment. So if anybody hasn't already signed up for a trial environment now, please drop a message in the chat or post somewhere in the Slack channel, and we can make sure that we'll get your account whitelisted before you actually go and create out your OCI services, so you can take advantage of this promotional offer. So just put that information in the chat or the Slack channel, and we'll hook you up with the promotional whitelisting. Okay, I'll give you just a moment to make sure you've registered your interest in the chat. Okay, so let's see. What do I mean by whitelisting? Okay, so what we've done is we've created a special promotional offer for you for the actual Pi Day event we're running today. So if you let us know what your your email is your account, what we can do is add that to our whitelist. And then what we'll do is we'll, when you sign up and create your OCI account, which is what I'm showing you here, it'll detect that you're on our VIP list, and it will give you an extra promotional bucket of credits. And it will also help us to make sure that we know who we're sending this with this swag out to as well. So if you can just drop your the emails you intend to use to register into the chat, and we can get all that hooked up. Maybe you can direct message them, that's fine. Okay, so to get going, what we'll need is we'll need a few details from you. So again, it's not too onerous. We just need a bit of information about where you're based, your name and email address. We want you to prove that you're not a robot, you're actually a person. So we've got one of those, the captchas on there. We might ask you to classify a few images, which is kind of interesting considering that's the purpose of today's exercises. Okay, so while Jane's whitelisting you and getting you set up, let me just walk you through what it looks like to actually set up an OCI trial account. Okay, so the easiest way, if you've already set up and you haven't been whitelisted on the registration page, the easiest way to notice is when you actually enter that information, verify your email, complete the CAPTCHA challenge, you should get a special offer. So that's the special promotional offer we're running as part of the Pi Day. So you should see that, and it gives you just an extra bucket of credit. So it's a little bit more value for you to do these experiments and hang on and do something interesting with this environment as part of Lab 5, the extension exercise, where you can build and bring your own data set. What will happen is once you've done all of that, we'll send you an email, and from there you verify that email, and that's going to move you on to the next center. And then it's going to ask you where you'd like to base your tenancy. So there's a range of regions. I'd recommend to base this close to where you're actually physically based. So for most of you, it's going to be in the Asia region. I've created my trial account in the Sydney data center. Absolutely. So pick one of these. So there's a few other regions, but these are going to be the ones that are going to give you the best performance for today's exercises. Finally, it's going to ask you to enter a few more fields. So again, just drop in your name, territories, etc. Set a password. Really important. You write this password down somewhere. You don't want to lose that, or maybe save it into your browser, whichever browser you're using. I'm using Chrome today for this demonstration. And you'll need to give it a name. So again, pick a name. Make sure you record this name too. So that's important. So make sure you've got a copy of your cloud password and your cloud account name. We'll need those later for the exercises. Finally, a few more details. We do need a number in case we need to contact you for any information about your particular cloud tenancy. But otherwise, click the agreement and start, and we should all be fine. So that should get you to the creating your cloud tenancy page. So hopefully we can all get there. I'm not sure if we can get a sign of hands, thumbs up, thumbs down, or just responding in the chat if you're successful, if you do have a cloud account set up. And conversely, if you're waiting for Jane to whitelist you in provision, let me know too if you're still waiting to get set up. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so hopefully everything's working all right. I'm seeing some messages that they can't find you, Wes, in the chat. So it looks fine. I can see you in there. And I'm also seeing some information, hey, if we're getting asked for payment. So if you're getting asked for payment, everybody who's registered for the Pi Day event and has been whitelisted, it's not going to ask you for any payment options. So if you're getting prompted for a credit card, perhaps you haven't used the same email you're using when you registered for the Pi Day event. So it's important that you're using the email you've registered with so we can find that, whitelist it, and make sure it's not going to challenge you for a payment method. That's it. So if you are getting prompted with being asked for a payment method, please reach out to Jane Hall. She's organizing the whitelisting. So just ping her directly with your email and we can hook you up from there. So everything going well, you should then be taken into your Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI Oracle Cloud Infrastructure tenancy. And that should look something like what's on the screen now. So hopefully we've all been successful. It looks like, let's see, we've got 43 attendees. I'm not seeing too many requests in the chat, so it looks like the majority of you have set yourselves up successfully. Okay, so let's move on to the actual labs themselves. So what I've got here is I've got the link to the lab material. What we'll do is we'll make sure that's dropped into the chat. So I think Wes, you've already dropped that into the chat. Thank you very much for that. So if everybody can make sure they navigate to that and open that up. So you'll need one browser with your Oracle Cloud environment in it, another browser with the lab instructions in it. Okay, so let's pause there. Okay, so let me just set up here. I'm going to set up with those two windows, as I said. We're going to have a window with our instructions, another window with our cloud environment on it. Make sure I can find both of these. Okay, so as I said, you're free to use a version of whatever browser you want. I'd recommend using Google Chrome if you have it. Otherwise, Firefox works well as well. All right. So hopefully that's all going fine. So what we'll see if we navigate to the exercise that's been posted in the chat for the lab exercises, we can see that it's going to take us to a Git page where we have some information about the Pi Day workshops. This is the workshop we're going to be stepping through today. So again, it's a beginner workshop. We don't require you to have any expertise either within the Oracle Cloud or within computer vision or even Python programming. So we're going to walk you through every step of the way. We've got some great instructions here that are very step by step. So please, you can feel free to follow along with me and we'll go through this together. Or if you're familiar with a lot of this and know how to set up Python and build applications and you just want to rush ahead, feel free to do that too. If you run into any challenges, you can either wait for us to all catch up and run through that particular step or post your questions within the chat or in Slack and we'll monitor from there. All right, so while we're just getting those last few whitelisted, what we'll do is just move through the exercises. Okay, so the introduction, I think we've already run through that. So again, this is setting up the environment. So there's a couple of different lab exercises that we're going to work on today. So based on the OCI Vision service, we're going to be running through an image analysis use case and also a document AI use case. So we'll look at how we can pull out objects within an image, and we'll do this from the service console, as well as build an application to do this in bulk, and also look at how we can use document AI. So looking at something like a receipt or an invoice and pulling out useful business information using that service. So we're going to have a look at both of those. So the overall lab, we've set aside 90 minutes of time to do this. Again, you'll have the environments for 30 days. You'll have access to the hands-on lab material. So again, if you don't get through everything today, that's fine. Feel free to continue later in the day or over the next 30 days to run through these exercises. I really hope you try some extension work too based on this. See what you can do with some of your own data sets or maybe another interesting data set that you've used in the past. So hopefully you're all still with me. I'm just going to navigate to the first lab now. So it's setting up the tenancy. So hopefully we've all managed to go through and create a cloud tenancy and we're all set up. I know a couple of you are having challenges getting past the payment wall there. So again, it looks like Jane's triaging that. So hopefully you're able to successfully get through there and get set up. I'm sure you're in good hands. All right, perfect. I'm not seeing too many more challenges. So again, it's just a repeat of the steps that we ran through on the slides. So again, if you've joined a little bit late, the exercises in Lab 1 are all about how to actually go through and set up your Oracle Cloud Service tenancy and get access to the various services that we're going to use during today's lab. Right, so once that's been set up, we're going to sign into our accounts. So again, it's using the username that we used to register and create our cloud tenancy and your password. So please don't lose those. And also the name of your cloud account. Again, really important. Let's make a note of this and record that somewhere. Chuck it in a text document or notepad or wherever you might be saving useful links to the session. Okay. So we'll get signed on and then end up at our cloud infrastructure service account. So hopefully we can see everything from there. If we come up to the burger menu in the top, we get a list of all the various services, databases, compute, and AI analytics material that we have packaged within our OCI tenancy. So we're going to come along to the next lab. And here we're going to start configuring and setting up these services. Okay, it looks like most people are following. If someone's not up to this stage, let me know. I know we've got 1 or 2 waiting on getting their accounts whitelisted. It looks like that's all coming together now. Otherwise, we're going to get started using the OCI Vision service. And we're going to do the first exercise walking through the OCI Vision service from the OCI Console. Okay. So the first method, we're going to actually go and configure and set up the AI service using one of our stacks deployment methods. So many of our services within Oracle Cloud Infrastructure require you to set up some security permissions and policies to make the service work, as well as actually create service instances themselves. To simplify this, we provide you with a stack deployment. So it's a recipe that you can run that will actually deploy and configure the service for you. So that's the preferred way of setting all of this up. And that's what we're going to do today. So let me show you how that works for this particular lab exercise. So we're going to come down to the developer services from the burger menu. So again, that's coming up to the burger menu here. It will spring open and show you a list of service categories. So under the developer service, we navigate to, under resource manager, we have a menu item that stacks. So if we'll click on this, it'll show us a range of recipes that we'll use to deploy our AI service environment. Okay, I already have one, so I've set this up previously, but the way it works is you come into your stacks menu, click on the create stack. It's going to give you a choice of where you want to get the stack recipe, the stack template from. We're going to come down and use templates. And if I select the template, I've got some quick starts. I always have services. The one we want is in services. And we can see we've got the OCI Vision one here. So this is going to set up our Vision service, and it's going to configure the IAM group policies that will need to work on this particular lab. So we'll select that, select the template, It'll show us where we want to run that. So we'll run that within our root compartment here. It'll give us a review of what it's actually going to go ahead and create for us. So we can see these are the various names. We can leave all of these as is. And we'll go ahead and use custom models, and we'll click the use batch analysis too. And here we need to select the compartment we're going to stand this up in. So again, we'll use the base configuration, or we'll just use our compartment name. So this is the tenancy name that we created when we set up our cloud account. Here I named mine Pi Day 2022. You may have called it something different. It doesn't matter. Whatever you've called that, make a note of that and then save that and put that to one side, because we will need to refer to this later in the labs. And finally, you click next, and it will go ahead and give you the option to create that. So the final box you need to check is run and apply on the created stack. So you hit that and then click create. This will go ahead and stand up everything you need to work through the exercises we're doing today. So hopefully you've all run that now and you don't have any problems with that. It runs really quickly. It will take you just maybe a couple of minutes for all that to complete. Then you end up with, if in your stacks, you'll see the previous run. Here's the one I ran a couple of days ago. And you should get a state successful. So you end up with a yellow icon that the stack deployment is in progress. That'll change to green, and you're looking for the job to run successfully, state successful. Okay, so hopefully you're all using your trial cloud accounts. If there's anybody who's using an existing tenancy, maybe you already have an OCI environment, and you want to actually do this exercise in a pre-existing environment, you can either use the stack recipe, or you can run through and actually create this manually. So again, the steps to manually set this up, create the services, set up the policies. We have steps here in the documentation for that as well. So again, it's a matter of going to identity and security and the policies. And what I'll do is I'll show you how to do that. So let me show you what the actual stack template created for us. Here I have my Vision policies. So it's created a policy for me. And what it's done is it's given the Vision group, which is the group we created during the stack template, has given it the ability to use all of the AI service family within this tenancy. And it's also allowed the group access to the object storage. So we're going to have a number of object storage buckets where we're going to upload all the images we're going to use in today's labs. RMS and RMJ are good for this lab? I believe so. I believe so. If we've got a stack, we've created the OCI Vision service, I think we're all good. Yes. So Sergio, I just ask you just come in just to see if things have worked correctly. Maybe just come to the identity service. Have a look at your group policies and just see that these groups have been created. The other thing you need to do is if we all come to the group policies, we can see groups. We can see we've got the Vision service that was created. And I've just added my, my user there as well. Anyway, we've got the full steps to go through and build out those policies. Okay, so let's have a look at the requirements for this first task. So what we're going to do is we're going to upload a number of our images that we have for each of the particular labs. So lab 3 and 4. And we're going to create an object storage bucket to post all of these images into. So to do that, let's go and set up our storage bucket. Okay, so hopefully we've got all the exercises and steps in another window, hopefully on another screen, as I have. And what we're going to do is step in and have a look at creating an object storage bucket so we can upload our images. So we'll come down from the, again, from the burger menu, navigate to storage. And we're going to navigate under object storage to buckets. So we're going to click onto the buckets. And we're going to create a bucket. Here's one I've already created, but essentially we come here, make sure we're in the right compartment. So again, where we're running today's exercise. And we're going to click on create bucket and give it a bucket name. So again, you're free to choose whatever name you like for your bucket, but I strongly recommend that we use the same name that we've used in our lab instructions. It'll make it easier. So we're going to have to refer to this bucket name in future labs, and we'll need to put this as a variable in our Python program as well. So it's going to make life much easier if we give it a nice name. And the name we're going to choose is a Pi Day demo. Okay, I already have one created, so I'm not going to recreate that. But we'll go ahead and we'll leave the default settings and we'll click on create. Okay, so if you've all done that, you should be returned back to your buckets menu and see that you have a bucket already created. So now we're going to look at downloading and uploading the various images. Okay, so we've got a bundle of images for you for both Lab 3 and 4. So these have been made available on our Git repository. So you can either download them directly from Git if you haven't already, or what we'll do is we'll share them in the Slack. So on the developer relations Slack channel, we've got a channel set up for this particular workshop and we've posted it there. So let me just move over here to make sure that it's been posted. Okay, so it was in the channel Pi Day Hands-on Lab. And Wes, have you posted the lab? Yes, you have. Okay, thank you very much. So there's a zip for Lab 4 and 3. So if you can just download those from the Slack channel or download those from Git. So you can download them from here and download. So there's two methods for downloading them. Okay, I'll just give you one moment while you download those images. Make sure you know where you download them, unzip them. Okay, so after you unzip them, you should end up with something that looks a little bit like this. You should have 2 images for Lab 3 and 7 images for Lab 4. And we can take a quick look at the images. So one image is a lunch menu from Trader Joe's. Sorry, a receipt for a lunch order at Trader Joe's. So he has some information on here, a whole lot of items. We also have one that's called skiing. So that sounds interesting. Let's have a look what that might be. And we can see we've got an image of an aerial skier doing a jump. That looks pretty cool. And construction, let's just have a quick look at what those construction images look like. Okay, and we can see a guy wandering around a building site with a hard hat on. That looks pretty interesting. So I'm keen to see what we're going to do with our AI services from here. But first, we need to make sure we've got these images loaded into our object storage bucket. So to do this, we want a little bit of separation in there. So we're going to go and create a bit of a couple of folder structures within our object storage. So under the bucket, we need to create 2 folders here. So we create new folder, create one for lab 3, so call it lab-3, lowercase would be great, and lab 4. So create those 2 buckets. I'll give you an example. Create one for lab 5 as an example. And then we get that bucket here. Okay, so you can see I've already uploaded images into my labs. So what I'll do is I'll delete the receipt. And I'll delete the skier. Okay, so there's a number of ways we can upload. So if I come into the lab 3, what I can do is I can upload images into this. Oops, let's just navigate back and upload a couple of images. Okay, so from the lab 3 folder, if we click on upload, we can either navigate to the files and upload them individually, or we can just drag and drop them on here. So we can either use the file explorer to browse for them, or we can drag and drop them. I'm going to cheat and use the drag and drop. So I have my 2 files here, and I'm just going to drag those onto the UI and upload them. So I can see the 2 files here, and they've both been uploaded. So that was really easy. If I come back, now I see those 2 files, they've been uploaded just today, and we're ready to go. All right, so hopefully we've all managed to create both a folder for lab 3 and also for lab 4 and get all our images loaded. Okay. So hopefully you've all managed to do that. What we're going to do is now I've got the images uploaded, let's actually go and take a look at the AI Vision service itself. So if we come to Analytics and AI, we can click into here and we can see we've got a range of services. We're interested in the Vision one today. An interesting feature on the on the left-hand side, we've got this little pin icon. We can select that and actually pin that to our homes page. So we've got quick, easy access to our AI Vision service. So again, it's another way of coming back to it. We're probably going to be going here a bit. So again, that can make life a little bit easier. Okay, so if we have a look at our Vision service, there's a number of different things it can do. As I said before, we can do image classification, what's actually in a particular image. So it's handy if I'm trying to classify what the image is about. Object detection will identify objects within a particular image. And document AI is for use with business documents, like our receipt from Trader Joe's. So we're going to start off by looking at document AI. So it's going to perform optical character recognition. So we've got some example images already loaded here. So we can see we've got a receipt again. Looks like we've ordered an Americano. I'm assuming that's a pizza, and 2 waters, and we've got subtotal for the bills, etc. We've got the merchant name. So what our AI document services managed to do is it's managed to pull out all these important business metrics. See, so it's identified that it's a cafe. We've got the address. We've pulled out dates, time, etc. The items on here. And again, we can pull it out as items here and return that as objects as found, metrics as found within the receipt, or we can actually have a look at it in key value pair. So again, that could be really useful if I'm looking for one or more of these particular entities. And we can also extract tables. So here's an example of it extracting the itemized table from the receipt as well. And again, it's showing us what the request to the service is. So again, this is the JSON request that if we were creating an application, would pass to the service. And we also have the response. What did the service give back to us? So again, it's got some metadata in there. So feel free to have a look at that. We're going to look at this in a lot more detail in an upcoming lab. Alternatively, we can look at some other documents as well. So we have an Excel here, a PDF of an Excel, and it's analyzing this. And it's, as you can see, it's a business spreadsheet, and it's going to pull out interesting information about the business spreadsheet too. So we can see we've got a whole lot of expense lines, and we've got items across the top by quarter. It's pulled that information out. We can see this is also a table. So if we come to the table, we can see it's actually created a representation of this image in a tabular format. So again, this could be really useful if I have a whole lot of spreadsheets I need to visualize and actually pull in. So I've got information I can work with. You can see that the AI service can do that. Again, if you have a look at the image classification function, we can see we've got a couple of examples here. So here we can see it's decomposed the image and taken that particular image and identified what this image is about. And we can see that the labels it's applied to the image is its overhead power lines. So that's the most likely object in the image. We also see transmission tower. We can see we've got the high voltage tower there. And we can also see there's a plant in there as well. So there's a bit of a tree growing right next to that power line. So that could be something if we were doing a vegetation management use case for a utility company, we might want to keep an eye on images that have transmission towers and plants like smack bang in front of them. So again, that could be something where we might want to flag that as an image that might want to be looked at by a maintenance person. Likewise, we've got an image of a pair of jeans. And we can see we've identified it as jeans. We can see this, the image is mainly about the pocket on the jean, it's denim, textiles, trousers, etc. So we pull out a whole lot of useful labels to the particular image. And finally, object detection. So we're going to be looking at object detection more closely in our lab, but we can see here we've got an image of some cars, and we can see it's pulled out that we've got a car, a second car, a person. It says a bus, so maybe that's the yellow color there. It thinks when it sees a yellow taxi that it's actually an American style school bus. And here we've detected that we've got a helmet and we've got a person and the human face. So it's identified these 3 particular objects within this image. Okay, so I hope this has given you a great idea of what the AI Vision service can actually do. What we're going to do is move on to the next lab, so we can actually have a look at how we can programmatically start using this service and make calls to it. So to do that, we're going to run through and set this up in Postman. I've got a question now. I'm assuming that it's being answered. Can I even pull out objects? So I've got a question is, can the Vision service pull out names like Oracle? Yes, we do have the ability to do optical recognition, optical character recognition on text within the object too. So there are a few requirements for us to be able to detect that. So that's all described in the OCI Vision documentation as well. So it needs to be of at least a certain size and a relevant skew as well. And it will actually pull that out, pass that, and return the language that it's written in, as well as what the word is. Okay. Let's see. So up to lab 3. When we have a look at lab 3, what we're going to do is look at how we can actually use the AI service and access that with a REST API. So we're going to learn how we can interactively make calls to the Vision service APIs. So to do that, we're going to use a tool called Postman. So again, it's a very widely used common tool for application development and testing various API calls. So here we're going to use it to test the REST APIs of the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Vision service. So to make life easier for everybody, we've put together a Postman collection and environment. So these are templates that you load into your Postman application so you can quickly configure and authenticate to an Oracle Cloud Service environment. And we also have the API proformas for all of our various services within the OCI cloud environment. Okay, so there are links to the product documentation where we can have a look at the actual documentation if you're interested in a deep dive into the APIs themselves. Although the documentation we have within Postman and the configuration files we've created is really good. So this is going to give you a good understanding about what gets passed into the function calls to authenticate in the beginning, and then to actually make the various API calls themselves. So you haven't already installed Postman, you'll need to install that. There's a link here. And there's also a link to download the Vision collection and the OCI environment. So I've got them loaded up already. So again, Postman, you'll need to download both the OCI credentials, the environment. Sorry, so the environment here, the OCI credentials, which has all the information about the tenancy, user, connections, region, etc. And you'll also need to download the Vision collection too. Okay, so here's my version of Postman. Let's go back and have a look at the instructions for running through this. Okay, so hopefully you're all following along. If anybody's not following along, let me know if anything's unclear and we'll go back and troubleshoot that. So please, questions are good. Again, we can have a conversation in the Slack channel, which is probably the easiest way to triage this and get some one-on-one help with the challenge or the problem you're facing, and we can go from there. So again, the way you export this, you can export that and save these. So again, I've already got this exported. So again, it's realized this would be updating it for me. So I can 2.1, that's fine. I can click on export and save that and it will download that for me. All right, so that's downloaded that into my downloads folder. The same with the environment. I come up to my environments. So that's the Vision API. I can have a look at the credentials and I download that as well. So I grab both of these, export them out. When I come to Postman, I re-import them. So I click on import. Again, I can either upload the file so I can navigate where the file came from my file browser, or I can just import them from my configs. So here I have my 2 Postman scripts. So I can just drag those on, drop them on and import them and import those. Okay, so I realize this can take a little bit of time if we're not familiar with Postman and perhaps we don't have Postman installed. It's going to take a little bit of time to download and install that and then configure it. So that's going to be importing these two APIs. So again, the API definition for all our various services, the Vision service, and also setting up our OCI environment. So I'm wondering, can we get a show of hands? So maybe in the chat, if people who have Postman, if you can say, hey, Postman installed and configured, thumbs up. And those who are having trouble, so either thumbs down or in the chat, configuring Postman, just so we can see whether we're ready to move on. Okay, so again, we've got detailed instructions about how we do this. These are good, lots of images, click by click example of how we import these. It's important that once we've actually got the OCI credentials installed, we need to make sure that's our active environment. We need to make sure that's switched on. So when we actually run the API calls, it will authenticate against our OCI environment. So here, OCI credentials, or from the environments. We have that tick box there. Okay, so you can see that updates the OCI credentials. Okay, so once you actually have this set up and we have our OCI credentials page, what we need to do is actually fill all these pieces in. So this is one of the great things about the Oracle cloud environment. There's a whole lot of configuration items that we need to go and take from our tenancy information, and we need to copy them into here. So it's a little bit fiddly. It's really important that we take our time and make sure we correctly identify and insert all these particular values, or else the API calls are going to fail. So what this is doing is this is setting our configuration. So to make an AI service call, it's all secure. We need to understand who's making the call, which tenancy we're actually calling. As we can see, there's many people doing this lab. We will need to make sure we're calling our respective tenancies. And we also need to make sure within a tenancy, there could be many different projects within a tenancy. In this lab, we will have our own tenancy, but let's think of myself as an organization. There could be other teams or other application developers configuring this for a particular compartment they might be developing an application in, right? So we need to make sure we specify which compartment we're using and which region, etc. So we need to set all these pieces up. So again, the key pieces of information that we need to harvest are the tenancy OCID. So again, let's take a look at what that looks like. If I come to my environment and I click on the profile in the top right-hand corner, I click on tenancy. So mine was Pi Day 2022. I can start seeing I've got tenancy information in here. I've got the Oracle, the OCID, the Oracle Cloud ID. We have the name. So these are great things. Let's copy these. Let's put those in our notepad session that we're using to track all our important details. The other piece that I'll grab while I'm here is let's grab the object storage namespace. We're going to need this, so make sure we put that somewhere safe. And we can start dropping these values in. So we put in the tenancy OCID, the user ID. So again, we can come to the profile. This is me. And again, I've got my user OCID here. So I want to grab that and make a note of that. That's important. We'll write this down in our notepad, as well as we'll drop it into our Postman interface. So I come back to Postman. I can see I've got my tenancy ID here. I've got my user OCID. The next thing I want to do is create an API key. We're going to use this to authenticate. So when I invoke the Vision AI service, I'm invoking it as me. So I already have rights to do this. I've got my group policy set up that I, as being a member of the Vision service group, have the authorization to invoke the AI Vision service. So what I want to do is when I'm invoking it from my laptop, from Postman, I want to make sure that Postman is using my API key to actually go and invoke and authenticate that service. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to go and set up the API key. So again, really easy. And again, there's a lot of configuration here. This is all a once-off. Now I have this set up for my environment. It's done. I've created some API keys and saved them on my laptop. I'm done with that. So they're good for authenticating into my environment. So if I come back and have a look, let's come back to my environment. I have for my user, Aaron.pyday, I have my API keys and I have a couple already created. If I create one, I click on the API key here, and what we'll do is we'll generate an API key pair. Now, again, I could choose to pre-generate these and upload them, but what I'm going to do is we're going to create new ones. It's going to be a lot easier. So I click on generate API key pair. I download that, the private key, I'll download the public key. And importantly, I'll add the key that I've created to my profile. So if I click on add, okay, I get this configuration file preview. Really important. We're going to copy all of this because we're going to need this later. So it's given us a couple of things. It's given us a fingerprint so we can identify this key. Again, that's just a quick code that I can scan through and have a look. And it's also created this configuration file here. So what we're going to do, copy this out. You've got a copy piece here. Put that into your notepad or whatever text editor you're using to keep notes for this session. Copy that and put that there. You can see we've got the fingerprint. We'll need that later. It's got some other useful information, tenancy. It's got the region. We'll need the region. So this is a great place to grab the region from. So grab this useful information, save that somewhere safe. And I can see it's now being registered in here. All right, so we generated our keys and saved those. We've copied all of that out and put that somewhere safe. Now we can go back to Postman and we can add in our private key. We can add in our passphrase. Oh, there's the private key. So when we actually copy in the private key, we need to make sure we drop the whole thing in. It's a little bit fussy about that. So you can see I've copied mine in. It's going to look at something in the form with hyphens, begin private key. Then it will have everything in. We drop it all in, new line characters and all. And drop that in there. Drop in the region. Again, we could have copied that from our private key file that we just generated, and also our compartment ID. So again, if we need to go and get the compartment ID from somewhere else, we can just drop down from our regions. Here I'm based in Australia East, the Sydney data center. If I click on manage regions, it's going to give me a screen where I can pretty basically go and copy and paste the region again if I didn't copy it from the other screen. So I can see I can get AP Sydney 1. I can just copy that off. So it's another way of just getting that information. So I fill out the region in Postman. Compartments, we can get that from identity and security. So let's go and grab the compartment ID. So I come down from my burger menu to identity and security. I come to compartments under identity. And I see my, my root identity here. Oh, there's another managed compartment. Here we go. So PyDay, which is my root compartment, and I have my OCID for that. So I can copy that, save that somewhere safe, save that in your notepad or wherever we're keeping our important information, and then we can drop that into Postman too. So that should finish the configuration. So we should have the tenancy ID, the user OCID, the fingerprint, the private key, the region, and the compartment OCID. And then we should be all ready to actually start invoking these API calls. Okay, so we'll pause there for one moment and just see where we're at as far as questions go. If there are any outstanding questions, or if anybody has questions, concerns, you're having trouble getting that set up, let the team know, and we'll endeavor to help you. So let me just see how we're going with the PyDay Slack. Okay, that's looking okay. All right, so hopefully we're all following along. Looks like most of you are from the Q&A in the chat. All right. Most importantly, don't forget to save. We need to save that configuration as well. Okay, so mine's already been saved. Now we're going to come and have a look at our collections. Now, if you've installed the collections properly, you should see that you have OCI Vision service. So that's the one you imported using the import function. Now under here, we have actions. And we have a post to perform document analysis, and we have a post to perform image analysis. So we need to configure these two for our lab. And this is where we'll actually be making an API call and asking the AI service to score one of the images we have in our lab 3 bucket. So remember, we had 2 images. We had the skier and what was the other one we had? We had the Joe Trader receipt for my lunch. So we had both of those images. So what we're going to do now is make an API call to actually ask the OCI Vision service to classify those 2 images. So let me make sure I do this in the right order. So first of all, we're going to perform image analysis. That sounds pretty cool. So if we click on this, here we get what the API fingerprint the service is looking for. So this is what we need to actually pass into the OCI Vision service to make this classification. So we can see what we need to do is we need to copy out this code. I can do that using this copy button here, and I'll paste that into my Postman, which I've already done. So I paste that in. So we're going to get rid of everything that was in there before and replace it entirely with this API code. Now we can see that in here we've got a few placeholders, right? So we need to actually go and replace this. So again, depending on how you've set your environment up, we need to say, hey, look, this is object storage. That's fine. We can leave that. We have namespace. So again, the namespace is going to be specific to your particular environment. So remember that when we set all this up, we need to get the namespace for the object storage. So that was one of the pieces that we were paying attention to earlier, and we hope that we've written that down correctly. So if we haven't, we can go back to our tenancy profile. So come up here, profile tenancy. And we need to get our object storage namespace. Okay, so that's the value that we need. Yours is going to be different. Make sure you copy that, put that somewhere safe. We're going to be using that again, trust me. And we're going to put that into our Postman script. So we've got that. The bucket name, this is the one we are using for the demo, PyDay demo. Again, if you've called this something different, and that's okay, you need to put in what you've called your bucket here. And here the object name. Remember, we created those folders, lab3/skiing. So skiing is the the image file that we gave you. So that's fine. If you've called this folder something else, maybe you've got lab_3 or some other variation of that, make sure you update this as well. So this is going to be how you've set up your object storage. So you're going to have to come down and just make sure we're following. PyDay demo was the bucket. Lab3 was the folder. And in here, we've got skiing. Okay, so that's where we get all of the values in case you're wondering. Okay, so hopefully that's all configured. Now, here's the moment of truth. We're going to test whether we've got our OCI credentials all set up correctly by making this API call. So if we come here and we send this request, so here we're going to pass the AI Vision service this information. We're going to ask it to score image or lab3, the skiing image. We're telling it where it's located and which bucket. We're telling it our object storage namespace, so I can go to through all the OCI environments and find our environment and pass that in. And we're going to see if everything's worked correctly, we should get this output here. So there's a few ways of looking at that. I like pretty, and we can see what's it found. So here it's discovered a person to a high level of confidence. We can see it's found some skis. So that's pretty good. We've got a helmet. And here we've got some other ontologies of how it's actually come to find those particular tags. So that's pretty good. So if we come back and have a look at our image, let me open that one up. Let's see how we did. Okay, so for those of you following on, hey, we've got the person, we've got a helmet, and we've got skis. So I think we did really well. So that's a win for the AI Vision service. All right, so hopefully we're all on top of that. I'm sure a lot of you have moved on quite a bit quicker and probably already at the end of the exercises. For those of you just watching and following along, hopefully this is all clear. If there's anything you'd like some more information about, hit up our team in the chat, in the Slack channel, in the Q&A, or in the chat panel for the Zoom. Now we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to use the image analysis. We're going to perform document analysis. Okay, so we've done image. Now we're going to do the business document analysis. So likewise, we're going to go and have a look at our code we need to pass into the image service. Okay, so here's the API call template that we need. Same thing. We know it's an object storage. We need to put in our unique namespace, our bucket name, and whatever folder name we use to file that receipt, right? So let's copy all of that. We're going to copy that. Oops, sorry. We're going to come back to Postman. We're going to delete everything that was in there, paste in our new API call. Now, again, if everything's great with our config and we don't have any malformed items within our request, we put in our individual bucket, our object storage namespace, our bucket name, our file folder, and the actual file we want to score. We're going to send that to the AI Vision service, and let's see what we get back. Okay, I've got a question here from Rajiv. Are the prices based on transactions per day or per month? So it's our monthly billing for all the API calls we make within a month to the Vision service. So if you go to the AI Vision service page on Oracle, so www.oracle.com/AI, we should take you to the AI portal, and you can see it'll give a list of all the AI services, and you can have a look at the Vision homepage. And if you scroll down to the bottom for your country, it'll show you what the billing metrics are and how many API calls, what we charge them at, etc. on their per month billing. Okay, so here we've got the receipt and we've scanned that and passed it. So if we have a look at what it's actually detected, see it's pulled out the business name, Trader Joe's. So it's found Trader Joe's. It's got a whole lot of locations for it that actually pulled out these particular elements. So there's a few different ways we've got to actually visualize that again. So what we'll do is actually go back and actually have a look at the image. So what I'm going to do is come back here and have a look at image 2. Oops. Let me just drag that across. Okay, Trader Joe's. So it's gone through, indexed that and pulled out all that useful information. So as you can see, I can now use this and I can run past, if I was building an application, I can pass through this, pull out the tags that I'm interested in and use that as now structured information I can pass into my application. So maybe I'm creating an application to go through and pass expense receipts. Maybe I want to keep an eye on all my salespeople, what they're spending on lunch, etc. So I can pull that out and I could maybe pass that downstream to a business application, maybe for an expense reporting application, or maybe I'm also trying to tie in a little bit of this in with some anomaly detection to spot potential fraud, etc. So again, all really easy. I can build applications using a variety of AI services to build out something really powerful. And again, it's all really easy. I can do all of this without actually understanding how to train and build a vision model from scratch, right? I can just take advantage of these pre-built models using these APIs. And as I see, I can just use my developer skills to build out something pretty powerful. So let's go back and see where we are with the lab instruction. So that's the end of lab 3. We'll move on to lab 4. So for those of you following along and building this as we go, can we get an indication, thumbs up or thumbs down on how we're proceeding with the labs, or put some notes in the Zoom chat or on the Slack that we're all keeping up? All right. Okay, so the next thing we're going to use is in lab 4, we're going to take those 7 construction site images and we're going to be working with those. So we can see we've got an example of one down here. What we're going to do is we're going to now, instead of just testing the APIs, which we've done using Postman, we're actually going to build a Python application to create an application that's going to ingest all of these images. So here we have 7 in our example. This could be any number, right? We could maybe start getting a video stream and decomposing it and do something really sophisticated with that. So what we want to do is we want to create a program that's going to identify construction workers who aren't wearing a helmet, right? So our applications, we're going to write a piece of code that's going to be based on the OCI Vision service, collect all these images from our object storage bucket, index all of them, count the number of persons in each image, and then count the number that are wearing hard hats. Now, as we saw when we were calling the OCI Vision service, the object detection service from the OCI Console, we could see it was really good at identifying people and people with helmets or hats. So we're going to use this to try to see if we can identify unsafe construction workers who could be wandering around on our building sites without helmets on. Here we've got an example of 2 workers not wearing helmets. So again, this lab should be pretty quick. We're not going to go through and hand code the Python program. We've got one we're providing you. We'll have a really quick run through of the code, but it's something you can pull apart and play and enhance using your own data sets later. Carrie, that's fine. You're keeping up. We're going pretty fast. And there's a lot of prerequisites as well of having Postman set up and configured and everything. So again, if you're not already set up with this, it can be a little bit tedious getting this set up. Trust me, it's still one-off setup. Once everything's set up, things run really smoothly. So hopefully we've given you all the tools to get that foundation set up with the Postman configs, example Python program, setting up your OCI environment and everything. So once all that's done, it's just the fun part, right? I can take our programming code and start playing with that with our service documentation to understand how I drive the AI services from the programming shell, and we can go from there. All right, let's see. So now, lots of us are on different computers, right? Personally, I'm running a Mac. I know some of the other team have got Windows, and there's even the odd Linux user out there as well with a Linux laptop build. So depending on what our environment is, whether it's Mac or Windows, this is going to work pretty much the same. There's just a few quirks of how Python's installed and configured on various platforms. So hopefully we have a familiar understanding with Python at a higher level, and we'll look at how we can get this configured. So as we did before, when we used Postman, we had this concept of the OCI credentials for our environment, right? And what this did was manage, it's going to show up for me. Okay, was manage all of our key details, right? So we've got our OCI tenancy. I have my OCID, the private key, really important, and the fingerprint, etc. So this is how we actually authenticate. When I'm working on my computer outside of the Postman application, I need the same thing, right? I need our cloud tenancy, some way of knowing that it's, hey, it's me, and I'm authorized to actually use this environment and invoke API calls from the program running on my laptop against my cloud environment. So we need something similar. So in Oracle Cloud, we have this concept of a cloud tenancy configuration file, right? So the way we set this up is we make a .oci folder. So again, whether on Windows or Mac, we need to set one of these up. And to do this, we need to create that directory, and then we need to start collecting some variables again, right? So if we just have a look, I should have one I've created earlier. So again, this is what it should look like on a Mac. Right, so here we just have the root users, we have me, and here I have .oci, right? So inside of this directory, I have my config file and I have my API keys. So I've just chucked my public and private keys here to put them all together. So again, it's just a convenient way of doing this. So what we're going to do now is look how we actually build this up. So first we need to create the OCI folder. Then we need to build our configuration file, and we need to get our API keys and actually drop them in there. And what we'll do is our Python program will grab the values from there. So I can write many Python programs. I'm going to use the same credentials for all of them, the same API keys, and the same tenancy details. So it's all in one place. So once this is done, this is a once-off setup thing. Now I'm ready to develop any number of applications. So we're going to go and grab the various pieces again. So we're going to open up the profile, and we're going to go and grab our identity. So we'll just run through and follow these steps. It's documented really well. We're going to create another section of API keys. Now, if you listened to me when we ran through this earlier, we've already created public and private keys and the fingerprints and saved all of that. I can use that again, or we can create some new ones, okay? So this is assuming we didn't complete the previous lab. So either way, we can run through and do this again. Download the public and private keys, generate the key pair, add the keys to our user. So again, if I come back and have a look at my environment, I'm going to come back. Oh, so I'm going to come to the top and I'll come to my user profile. So identity service aaron.pydate. Okay. So I come down to API keys. I can create another set of keys. So I download public and private keys. I click add. Oops, let's do that again. Download. Okay, there are my downloads. I add those. Oh, I've created more than enough keys for me. That's okay. I have more than I actually need anyway. So we'll go through and get that information. It's going to look a lot like, where are we? Where's our? We're going to get the configuration file preview again. Really important. We copy all this out. We need this. So copy that, put it in our notepad or text editor, wherever we're keeping our important notes. Now we need to create our config file. So I'm going to go and have a look at my config file. So again, if I'm working on a Linux style environment such as Mac, I can use the command line editor vi to do that. If I'm working on Windows, I might want to open this up and just use my text editor of choice to modify this config file. But it's going to live in our .oci folder, which I have here, users a Hoile/OCI, and the config file. So if I have a look at the config file I already have, we can see I have my user, and I've put in my user OCID. So we remember where to go and get the OCID for the user. We go to the Oracle Cloud profile, and I copy in my UCID for my user. Again, I've already saved this off in Postman, so we have all this information. I grab my fingerprint for my key. Now, again, we did this in Postman. We've saved this in our notebook and in our text editor for keeping all our handy bits of important information together. I copy this in. I drop in my tenancy OCID. Again, information I've already grabbed, and our region. So I'm working out of the Sydney data center. Now, the last one is I need to provide the path where I've put my my private key, right? So what I have is, if I have a look at my directories, what I have is I have all my materials handy. I have all the various keys I've created. These are the ones we just downloaded, right? When we ran this step, we downloaded these. We moved them from our download folder and we dropped them in. We drop them here. I put my private key. I put the public one there too, just so it's all in the same place. I drop them into my my OCI folder. Okay, so whether I'm on Mac or Windows, I need those things all together. Okay, and if we have a look, I'll show you what this looks like from our Windows machine. Do I have Windows steps here? I think there were Windows steps up the top. If anybody's really stuck and wants to see Windows steps, I'm sure one of my colleagues can show you the Windows steps, but hopefully we've got all that set up. So again, just a crash course on the config. So again, if I want to go and create a config file, I can just use the vi editor on config. And now I get the default, right? So again, I can insert and I can modify the text here. So I've just updated these pieces of information. I've copy and pasted those in. And now to save that config, I just press the escape, press the escape key, press the colon, and it's right, and quit, just to save that file out. So I've got my config file. Okay, so that's all updated for me. Yours will yours will include your values, obviously. Have your own user OCIDs, fingerprint, tenancy, your region, wherever you've chosen to create your OCI cloud tenancy, and again, the path to your API key. So for me, I've got it in the OCI folder and my my private key. So with all of that, that means now our laptop is now registered to use the our tenancy, and we can start running our application. So hopefully we've all installed Python. I want to actually show you what this application looks like. So if you have installed Python, that's great. If you haven't, the steps here are really good. It will run through and show you how to configure and set that up. I'm just conscious on the time. And if one of my assistants can let me know, I think we're pretty much running out of time. So I want to move through this a little bit more quickly. So again, I've set up my Python environment for Mac. And if I grab my Python environment, I'm running this from the command shell. Oh, that's not the right one. Here's one I prepared earlier, as they say. All right. So I have my Python code. So I come down to the lab and we're going to assume we've got all our Python environment configured. I'm running Python 3. Okay, so I've mapped all my commands from my shell to my Python 3.10 environment. Depending, sometimes if you're on Mac, you might need to run Python 3, because Python is part of the Mac OS build anyway. So you might need to run Python 3, etc. to get the right value as well. So depending how you've got your Python environment set up, again, there's instructions here which are really good on how to set that up. Again, we're going to upload all our images to our bucket. So again, it's the construction images we've downloaded. They are sitting in this Hands-on Lab Slack channel. So go and grab those. You should all be familiar with how to upload them to an object storage bucket now. So if we come and have a look at our storage buckets, we've got the Pi Day demo bucket. Okay, under lab 4. I have my construction images. Okay, so they're all there. So that's looking pretty good. Let's go back to the instructions. Oops, there we go. Okay, now we want to create a Python application. So here we've got some code already created for you. So this is great. This is a really good template for you to run this exercise. And it's also really good for you to take this and then adapt this. So it's got all the commands of how to create a Python program, which libraries you need to import, how to actually populate my environment config. So again, this is the one thing that we'll actually need to modify so this code will run against our particular cloud tenancy. And again, it's got all the information of how to actually go and set up an AI service call, access all my images from my object storage buckets or my data lake, put those in a list, iterate through that list, and then pass this list object to our AI Vision service to actually make a batch score of all these particular image objects, right? And then what it will do is it will return, as we saw in Postman, all those JSON files. I'll get a JSON response for each image about what's in the image, right? So once we have all those JSON objects, I can iterate through that list of JSON objects, one per image, and apply some program logic to that, whatever my business logic is. Remember, we're looking for people on our building sites not wearing hard hats. So again, the program, we set up and create instances of the AI Vision service. We set up variables to capture the inputs and the outputs. And then we're going to start looping and iterating through all these images, create JSON files for all of them about what's in the image. We're going to iterate through that list of images, of JSON objects describing the images, and then we're going to start counting. And you can hear we're going to start counting the number of persons in each image, and I'm going to count the number of hard hats. And I'm just going to keep a few variables to keep an eye on where we are in our list, right? So once we get all that done, we can then run another loop, which we're going to export out all the number of, all the count for the people wearing hard hats and the people in images without hard hats. And that's what our program is going to do, right? So we come to the top, it's really quick and easy. We just copy that. And now we can go and create our Python program. So here, I can see I've already got my helmet detect Python program. So again, I can create that. I can create a file directly in the shell, just using the touch command, helmet detection. So if I come into my editor, I can go and copy and paste my program in here. And all I need to do is I need to come down and I need to change my variable definition. So again, same thing we did in our Postman environment config. I need to put in my namespace to my object storage bucket. I need to put in, my namespace to my object storage account, my object storage bucket, my compartment ID. So again, in our instance, this is the root compartment. My input prefix, this is our folder within our bucket. So this is lab 4. And again, where I want the output tool go, right? So I've created a path where I'm actually working on all my images here. Again, this could be anything. I can just put this out to my C drive, or if I'm working on my laptop, wherever I want that, just somewhere we can actually go and output that information. And again, I need the path to my config. So again, I'm using, under my user folder, I'm using the OCI and the config. If you've chosen to put this somewhere different, that's okay. You will need to update that as well. Okay, and that's all. That's all we need to do. So we'll just write and quit that. Another way of looking at it, we can look at it in our Python IDE. So again, this might be a bit prettier. This is just the unmodified Python script. You might even have an IDE. You might be using something like PyCharm or maybe Visual Studio. If you've got that set up, run the program there. It's probably going to be a little bit easier, a familiar environment for you. And you can just modify these particular pieces. It's really easy. It's all these green pieces here. Okay. So hopefully you've all managed to get your program set up. And now it's just a simple matter of I can just run that from the command line. Or if you're running this from an IDE, you can run it from your IDE. So Python, and I'm going to run my helmet detection program, and I'm going to just run that. So again, it's a bit old school, invoking it directly from the command line. You can see it's going to work fine. This is something that we could easily, you can see we can easily batch and script this or automate this. If this is part of a bigger job, we could put this command as part of a larger workflow. Maybe I've got a data integration job that's acquiring images each day, and I'm pulling them into my data lake or my object storage bucket. And once I've done my ETL to gather up all of my images and put them in a bucket, I'm then putting this Python helmet detection Python script or application as part of my workflow. So you can see there's a lot of power here to actually build up a very sophisticated solution to do something really complex like image detection, identifying the number of people with or without helmets, and counting that. So that's pretty sophisticated. I can do all of this just with pure Python programming, a bit of scripting, a bit of environment config on our OCI tenancy, and I can build up something that's quite powerful without having to understand how to train and build a computer vision model or a deep neural network to do image analysis. I can just use one that's already pre-trained and created. All right, so while that's running, we'll just have a look at the rest of the steps in here. So again, if we're keeping up at home, these are the variables that need to be updated. We should have all of that information previously. We've collected this several times. Hopefully put it all on your notepad cheat sheets. We update the values, the pi day, bucket name, the lab, where we want the output to be written. Here we can just go and invoke that with Python and the file. Again, if you're running this from your IDE, run it from your IDE, and we should get an output. So the job will complete, and it will tell us how many images we process, the number of persons we found in them, the number of helmets, etc. And it will let us know the actual images themselves where people weren't wearing hard hats. So let's see, how did we go? That's still running. Okay. All right, so any comments or feedback in the chat, in the Q&A? Has everybody managed to set up a Python environment? Has anybody run through this lab and has successfully detected the images with the people not wearing hard hats? Mike has a question. Will the chat and Q&A be saved after the webinar? Yeah, post questions in the Slack. The Slack channel is going to be available for some time after the event, so you can go back and get information there. It's pretty well documented. And for those of you still on the call, while that program is still running, let me just put up the slides, because we do have a quiz we'd like you to take. So wrapping up, there's a survey. So I think that's already been posted to the chat. If it hasn't, I'm going to drop that in now. And there's also the Pi Day quiz. So I'll drop both of those in the chat and in the Slack. And if you could fill those out, that'd be fantastic. Okay, and the quiz. Please post links to survey. Yeah, absolutely. I've posted those in the chat. I'll also make sure they're in the hands-on lab environment too for PyDay. Hey, thanks, Mike. Okay, so the output of the program is detected images 5, 6, and 7 are the ones we need to have a look at. So if we come down and have a look at image 5, 6, and 7. So that was our receipt from earlier. Just open those up. Okay, here they are. Okay, so that was image 5, and we can see there's the people doing the road surfacing. They're not wearing helmets. You can see we've got some people pulling up some cladding here, and they've just got hats on, so we can distinguish between hats and helmets. And here we've got some gentlemen working with a backhoe as well, and they're working along doing a bit of sweeping, and again, caps, beanies, but no helmets there too. So again, the other images, we understand that they were fine. Everybody's wearing the correct personal protective equipment. So that's fine. But again, we're able to write that program. It's going to iterate through all our images and actually spot people wearing hard hats. So again, really handy, useful output, something that can be incorporated into a real world business scenario. And again, the great thing about this lab is now you've got everything you need to configure your environment, get started, get all your API keys and environment variables going. But we've also given you a template of how to use the AI service. Now, here we're looking for hard hats. You could look for anything, right? So you can see how we can test this out using the OCI Console from the cloud service itself. We've seen how we can test the API calls using Postman, and we've seen how we can bring this all together with a Python program to actually build a powerful program that can be incorporated into a bigger batch process to actually acquire those images too. And then maybe we're building a report that can go out to our occupational health and safety boss or whoever's looking after the well-being of our workforce. So again, it's a really good building block for you to go and build something really cool on there. And finally, we do have one extension exercise as well, which will be homework if you want to continue your understanding and develop something further. We've got another lab as an extension, lab 5. We're actually going to go through and train up and build a custom version of a Vision AI classifier, right? So we're going to take our Vision service, we're going to get a data set, we're going to label and annotate that, we're going to load that into the Vision service and use that to actually fine tune a Vision model so it can detect a new class of attributes within our images, right? So again, if the standard out of the box image classifier isn't classifying what you need, we'll show you how you can actually develop and tune up your own without having to go and build a Vision model from scratch using machine learning or deep learning. So again, it's a developer AI-centric method of building this. And what we'll get you to do is go through and look for maintenance faults in these particular images. So again, another real interesting real world use case, and we'll show you how to actually use the data labeling service, take a labeled data set, train a custom model, and then use it to make some predictions. So that's homework for those of you wanting a challenge. I want you to really take this to the next level. Okay, and my service, let's see, so it's accepted. So it's finally returned. So we can see that program's run, and we see we've got some detections here. So we've made a few detections, and we can see, yes, we do have the number of hard hats, images, number of persons, and again, it's correctly identified the 3 images that have workers operating without hard hats. So we can see that Python programs run successfully, and we actually have the output that we need. Okay, so that wraps up our lab. Thank you very much. And again, all the documentation will be posted. You've got the lab materials, you've got your trial environments for 30 days. The Slack channel is going to be open for a while. So if you've got any more questions or need some help, please post your questions or challenges to that Slack channel in the developer relations, the Pi Day hands-on lab channel. And we hope you've had fun. Please fill out the quizzes. So again, the 2 quizzes we had, it was a quick survey about how you found today's lab exercises, and also a quiz for Pi Day to test your knowledge for the day's event. So thank you very much. Stay safe, take care, and we'll see you next time.